You are on these vibrational islands with law of attraction spinning on your individual vortices, giving you exactly what you are a vibrational match to. So the first thing that we would say to you is, if we were standing in your physical shoes, would leave them all out of the equation, well-wishers or not. Because if you need to prove to them what they need to see, then they've got you focused outside the vortex, and that's why you feel a diminishment of your joy. So somehow you have to convince them that you're onto something, and you know you're onto something. We know that they are well-meaning, and we know that you know that they are well-meaning. We're just saying, you got to do what's easiest to keep you focused in the vortex. So if someone says, how you doing? You say, tuning my frequency. You say, well, how's it coming? Great, I feel great. What have you got to show for it? Joy. Well, what else you got to show for it? Vitality, clarity. What else you got to show for it? All that you're doing, what do you have to show for the work that you've been doing? Enthusiasm, life, passion. That all? And what they're really saying to you, don't you think paying this price of joy is too great? Someone might even say to you, well, you seem really, really happy, and you seem like you've got the world by the tail, but I don't see any evidence of well-being in your life. And you say, wait, everything I want is because I think in having it I will feel better. And now I found a way to feel better even before it comes. They say, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It hasn't come. What a lot of people on this path say is, all the things I thought I needed to manifest in order to be joyful, I felt joy before they manifested. But then they manifested. In other words, they can't not come. Okay. A lot of times people say, I'm afraid to let myself want something because I will be so disappointed if it doesn't come. Well, what that is that's an awareness that I want that and I don't want the opposite of it. But the fact that I really, really, really want it means I really, really, really don't want the opposite of it. And frankly, I was happier when I sort of wanted it and sort of didn't want the opposite of it. When I sort of wanted it, then I could be sloppy in my thinking and it wasn't painful. But now I really want it. When I'm sloppy with my thinking, it's painful. And that's what makes people say, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. As if it has to go bad. I just know it's going to go bad. It always goes bad for me. And we say, it depends on where you're focused. The potential for wondrous or awful things is yours in every moment. And it all depends on where you've trained yourself. So now, think of different people you know, or different segments of society that you know, and think about what their waves are like. In other words, there are some people that don't let themselves dream big ever because they don't want the other side of it. And there are people who dream so big, who are sloppy in their thinking, that live really awful things. Isn't it remarkable how many really, really famous people at what seems to be the top of their game crash and burn so badly? And doesn't it make sense to you now that you understand the wave? So then you say, okay, I sort of get this. And I've decided not to be a deliberate creator after all. I'm going to play it safer. I'm just going to want a little. And we say, we should have told you sooner, but you now know too much. You can't go back. Life is parlaying you into fantastic things, you see. So what we're really talking about here is you got to focus. You got to focus, because what's coming to you is coming in response to your allowance. And here's the thing that makes what we just said to you interesting and funny, but different than the way we were playing with it. And here's what we mean by this. You've already played your hand. You've already been living your life. You've already been asking and asking and asking and asking and asking and asking and asking. In other words, you've already put who you really are over here in this vortex of creation. And you really have no choice other than to get up to speed with who you are. So what you just said to us is, well, I've been letting myself get up to speed with who I am, but now I'm worried because I can't maintain it. And we say, you got to practice that. you'll crash and burn a few times, but all that'll do is make you more determined to focus until you'll reach the place where it will matter to you that you focus inside the vortex. If it is true, and it is, that as a problem is coming into focus, a solution is too, then isn't it equally true that as a solution is in focus, that an equal problem is in focus too? In other words, have you ever seen a sound wave or a light wave or any kind of vibrational wave? There's two sides to the wave, aren't there? In other words, the wave, it has an equivalent. It can be small and it can be large, but it's equivalent in either case. So when you knew what you didn't want and now you know what you do want, so life is moving forward. Now, maybe on another subject, you're more focused on the negative side of the wave than you are the positive side of the wave. So maybe you've tuned yourself negatively. Let's back up. Here will be an easier way to hear it. You can't set your radio dial on 6:30 a.m. and hear what's being broadcast on 98.7 FM. Frequencies have to match up. The transmitter and the receiver have to be in sync. So let's say that you have several subjects that you are focused upon, and on one particular subject that you've wanted a lot about, you now have managed for a little bit of time to focus more inside the vortex. And so now things are moving along for you in a better way. But because you're not really yet completely at one with maintaining your inside the vortex vibration, occasionally you slip off into another vibration. And when you do, you now have access to the other side, the not good feeling side of that wave. Doesn't that make sense to you? And this is a really good idea for you to hold relative to where you're at. This is the precise piece that will soothe this for you. This vortex of creation, it's the vibrational foundation for all of the good that manifests. And when you have full view of it, that's when you feel utter faith, because that faith is knowledge in something not yet seen. And the reason you can't see it is because it's pre-manifested. But there is so much that is wonderful that is pre-manifested that you can feel. Did you get that? Now, for somebody outside the vortex, what they heard us just say was, you have to trust us, and we've just got a different version of the fairy tale for you. And so we can understand why from outside the vortex, skepticism and cynicism and pessimism would be something that you are feeling. But if you can accept the reality of this vortex of creation, and you can realize that when your friends and family and well-wishers are coming to you, you can't give them the evidence yet, but you can give them your emotional, vibrational version of it. And so what they're reaching for from you is your feeling of elation, your feeling of optimism, your feeling of knowing. Have you ever been part of something where there was a leader who knew even before there was manifestation, and that leader just knew so clearly that you knew too, and couldn't you ride the current of that knowing? And weren't there always those naysayers who couldn't see it and couldn't feel it, who were determined that it wasn't going to come to be? But because someone knew, and because you knew they knew, then you knew a little too? That's the best that you can do for those people, because almost everybody is demanding. That's why science and medicine moves slowly forward, is because they need to see it before they believe it. And that's backwards. You got to believe it before you can see it. You have to believe it in order to get in the vortex, and you've got to get in the vortex before you can see it, before you can rendezvous with the circumstances and events that are going to bring the manifestation of it about, you see. It's really interesting. This reality that humans claim and cling to is such an arbitrary thing. You are billions of people with billions of different perspectives of life experience, literally creating billions of different worlds, and yet pretending that it's all one big world that you're all sharing equally. And it's not even close to that, you see. We want you to remember that you get what you think about, but you cannot do anything other than mess up your own experience. What you think about here in this physical realm, of course, law of attraction is responding to it. You get what you think about. But we want you to understand, we want you to get it, that there is this vibrational reality that is formed, that the larger part of you, the eternal part of you, the part of you that lives on and on and on, the part of you that is the next generation and the next, the part of you that is God force, the part of you that keeps this planet spinning in its orbit in perfect proximity to other planets, that part of you is the receiver and the holder of the best of life that you're synthesizing. In other words, we want you to hold in your mind the idea of this place marker that source energy is, that as you carve out the details of life experience, and you know what you don't want to be sick, you want to be well, and on and on and on. As you keep emanating those rockets of desires, source energy, the God force within you, inner being, whatever you're wanting to call that, holds that positive place marker. And law of attraction keeps responding to that powerful, positive place marker. Now, the reason that we're giving this to you is because we want to give you words that reassure you unequivocally of the well-being and the longevity of the eternalness of that which is you. We want you to understand that the well-being of that which you are living here on this planet is unequivocally assured. In other words, the well-being is, the well-being is, the well-being is. And the reason that we know that it is because we've seen what you put into the escrow, which is the basis from which all new creation is coming forth. You just don't need to worry about that. We're also giving it to you in this way because we want you to understand how it is that we can say to you, you get what you think about, and then we can also promise you that the well-being of your planet is assured. There are billions of people on your planet, and billions of you are not worried about global warming. Billions of you are not beating the drum of anything very long. You're a fickle bunch, and that's really good.
It is just so long.
Even CNN can only give you a little while of any story before it has to move on to the next one, and that's a very good thing. Even though it distorts what it gives you dramatically and gives you far more reason for concern than you deserve in terms of the weight and balance, not the poop to value, the weight and balance of what's going on. We want you to understand that well-being is assured. It's in this vibrational reality, which is the basis of everything that's coming forth. We want to find a way today of conveying to you that as you stand in your physical body and you sift through the details of life as you knew you would, that you launch so many endless rockets of desire, and the universe expands and improves as a result of your exposure to life. It just gets better and better vibrationally. And the new generations that are born into this experience are born from this new leading edge place that you've carved out. But we want you to understand that you and every other species on the planet, better said, you and every other consciousness on the planet, and every particle of everything is consciousness, you are constantly asking for improvement, and the source energy part of you, the vibrational part of you, finds that improvement, finds it immediately, and from then on begins offering from that new vantage point. So that means that as you stand on your physical earth, and you worry about global warming, you ask for your earth to maintain its balance. As you worry about earthquakes or volcanoes, you ask for a stable environment. As you worry about economic upheaval, you ask for more stability. And what we want to convey to you is that asking really, really matters. And that asking wouldn't be as extreme or intense or as focused as it is if you were not exposed to the life that caused you to focus it. Now, the reason it really matters is because it is from that vibrational reality that all reality that expands or extends from generation to generation to generation. And there is the longevity that you know as life on this planet extends purely. This is new. We have not said this to anyone ever, so you're going to enjoy the resonance that you feel as you hear it. As this vibrational reality that we are describing comes to be, this earth experience that extends from generation to generation to generation to generation, comes only out of that vortex of creation.